Hey everyone, this is Cindy Gerard with Soul Hype Cindy. We spend our lives navigating friendships, relationships, health. Let's do it together. Let's leap into our best and most enriching lives through true and inspiring stories. Welcome to Soul Hype Cindy. Thank you guys for taking the time with me today. Who is Soul Hype Cindy? My name is Cindy Gerard. I am a believer, a spouse, a mother, a sister, and a daughter. I was born in 1978, and so I feel like I have gained a lot of insight and wisdom through my hills and valleys, but I also know that I have a whole lot more to learn, and I am welcoming you to come with me on this journey to have the most enriching and fulfilling and impactful life. So I appreciate your time, and please follow me on Instagram at Soul Hype Cindy, SoulHypeCindy. Today, I'm very excited to introduce you to Raffy McGrath. She is a marriage and family and mental health counselor. Just a few of her specialties include counseling of trauma, PTSD, anxiety, family conflict, a therapist with experience in handling addiction, alcohol abuse, coping skills, depression, dual diagnosis, emotional disturbance, grief, healing painful memories, life transitions. The list goes on and on and on, and we are going to leap into learning more about what is going on inside of us when we have different events that not only change who we are, but also change how we act and how we feel. So let's leap. The very first question today is, let's start with the root of emotional pain. Why is it so hard for people to identify what they're feeling and where those feelings are coming from?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I look forward to this. I would say that the root of emotional pain would be fear. And actually, that would be something that would be consistent with what God tells us, is don't fear.
Do not fear.
But when fear sets in, we have a response to that belief or that interpretation that causes a reaction within us in our physiology. It triggers up what we call the sympathetic nervous system. And it's a very, very interesting mechanism.
Where is the sympathetic nervous system?
The sympathetic nervous system is part of the autonomic nervous system, and the part of the brain that controls this sits deep within the two hemispheres on top of the brain stem.
Okay.
And the interesting part about that little brain is, because it is small, is that it has no language and no intelligence and no time orientation.
Oh, okay. So at the top of the stem, that holds, like when I think of a brain, I think of, it looks like a little quiggly map. Like that would be the top, I'm assuming, because I dropped out of human anatomy and physiology in college. Okay, so
yes. Well, if you can imagine the brain, and then the spinal cord,
yes,
that goes up into it, where that spinal cord attaches is called the brainstem.
The brainstem, and
the limbic system is right there on top of the brainstem. But that's very deep within the two hemispheres.
Okay.
We've got the two sides. But the most interesting part of this brain is that it's what it's necessary for. It's caused us to move. Well, it's actually tied to our survival mechanism.
Okay.
So when we experience fear, then that automatic response is, oh my goodness, you're in trouble. This is when I'm supposed to do my job. You can almost think of it like a first responder.
Yes.
It
Just sitting around at the fire department cooking some chili, and then the alarm goes off.
Waiting for the alarm. And it does a very good job because it completely changes the physiology inside. It causes your heart to beat faster and your breathing to get shallow. And it sends a circulation mostly out of your brain and all over your body. Because if you've got to move, you need strength in your arms and legs. And so this is what happens when we become preoccupied with fear.
Preoccupied with fear. Yes.
Now, here's something else that's interesting. When you think about the way that our minds work, when I talk about, I call it a mind. But the interesting thing is a mind's a concept. You can't see it, touch it, photograph it, but everyone has one, and we experience it. I think it's actually that intangible part of us that is eternal. But the mind is the executive that will give the orders to the limbic brain as to what is the status of my condition right now.
Oh.
So when
you're in that moment and you are that something triggers because of a fear, and your first instinct is to respond, you can't actually control that.
No, you can't. It's like putting your hand on a hot stove.
Oh.
So
I feel a little bit better about that now.
No. That's the biggest problem, is that it's like we keep trying to control it. And we can, but we have to change the interpretation that the mind puts to the circumstance.
Oh, okay. So say that. I'm sorry. Will you repeat that again?
Yes. We have to change the interpretation the mind makes to the circumstance. Example, I often use, working with people, this crazy thing called a snake stick principle.
Okay.
So just imagine I'm walking down a pathway and I see a line across the path, which is not like a straight line. And I am going to be pretty much alarmed and curious about what is that. So if my mind tells me that's a snake, then I'm probably going to turn around and run. But if I decide, well, there's enough to just cause me to wonder, so I'll get a little bit closer. But remember, as long as I think it's a snake, I'm ready to move.
Yes.
But if I look more carefully and then go, it's a stick, then my whole system just deflates because there's no more danger. So you see, this is the way that we can manage what happens within us, and the more we can realize that there is usually not an emergency. Most of the time, it's not life-threatening. And that's a primitive part of the brain. So remember, it's going to want to keep you from dying.
Yes. So if you get upset, the executive is like, you're in trouble, and your reaction is to move, either in an unhealthy way because you're telling yourself like a fear within you.
Exactly, and that fear can be a preoccupation with something the mind is telling you, or about a circumstance or a situation. It also can be related to a resentment or a grudge that you've had, and that pretty much sounds like, that's not right, that's not fair, I don't deserve to be treated like that. which is one of our greatest challenges when we're dealing with other people. But when that happens, it causes us to, or that it causes that part of our brain to feel threatened. And so it's going to do what it's designed to do, which is to change our physiology to get us to move. We call that the fight-flight system. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty right on. It's either going to cause you to want to move away or to attack. Most of the time it's verbally.
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't that interesting? Because because the brain's telling you to move, and a very easy way to move is with your mouth.
Oh yes,
and
it is.
And I'm very guilty of that. I consider myself to be a decisive person. Mm-hmm. Give me it, and I mean, I can make it. I could take the decision, run it, and I can spit out the. And I have a friend who told me that a life skill that she had learned, that if something really hurt her feelings or felt, made her feel very offended, she said, "Do not respond for 72 hours." And I was like, "Whoa." I was like, I respond in like 2 seconds.
Most of us do.
And so what are, for just me, and I would, like you're saying, most people do, it really is just stopping.
Yes.
Stopping and looking at the squiggly stick and realizing that it's not in danger.
You're not going to die.
You're not going to die.
That is a question that I learned to ask basically with the gentleman that I trained with. And it's that the system is really very, very primitive. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, every other living creature has this very same system.
Really?
Yes.
So it's not just humans?
No, but no other creature has the prefrontal cortex and the thoughtful mind. That's the part of our brains that I believe that God gave us, that is created in the image of God. That's what creates relationship. That separates us from all other living creatures. And the thing about it is,
so the prefrontal cortex is the
thoughtful part,
right behind your forehead.
Yes, and the brain is very complicated. We simplify it.
You must simplify it, definitely for me.
Well, for me too. It's very complicated. But for the purpose of helping people understand what's happening inside of their bodies is to realize that when I can't make sense of something,
got me in a tizzy.
Oh, yes.
It's got me in a tizzy.
That's a clinical term.
Is it really?
No.
Oh.
It's kind of like the other one in the book called Crazy.
Crazy. Oh, really?
No.
Insane.
No, those are not clinical terms. However, most people know exactly what they mean. But that part of the brain that every other living creature has, it serves them well, because when the system energizes you to run fast and bite hard, well, that works.
Yes.
If I'm a zebra and a lion's chasing me, then I'm going to be prompted to run as fast as I can. I might outrun the lion, but more likely a slower zebra. So. But none of that, I mean, how many times do you think that's going to really help in the human being life? Not very often.
Not very often.
No, not very often. So even though it's the instinct, but it does drive what we usually use as our mouth as our attack weapon.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Well, that's when we will say things that we will regret. So hopefully, when something happens that you interpret as that's not okay, you get you will have a sensation in your body to take an action. Hopefully you can remember to say, wait a minute, am I getting ready to die here?
Am I getting ready to die here? Well, it's interesting because I can remember when I first got married, I asked Jeff to cut a cube of tofu for me because I was going to make a Korean soup called a kimchi tofu soup. And I gave him very specific instructions. And I came home and I started laughing because he did the exact instructions, but he put it on the cutting board different than I would. And so, but I was like, oh, that's so cute. Ha, 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 ha. Like, you think so different. And then...
Yes.
and then now I'm like, how do you not understand what I'm saying? And so it's funny that if we really do not interpret that as something to be feared and that you're going to die.
Exactly. And what we know is that words are the faultiest way of communication because everyone interprets words differently. So what a person says and what the other person hears can be two entirely different things, which is when you realize this, at least it gives an opportunity to check it out. Is that really, maybe I didn't understand you correctly. Could you say that a different way again?
Even responding calmly.
Oh,
this is how I received, this is how what you said, this is how I received it. Is that truly what you meant to say?
That's perfect. And I think if more people would have the presence and the calmness to ask the question, there'd be so fewer conflicts. Because people just automatically launch, so to speak. And, I mean, I certainly have many times in my life, and it doesn't necessarily work out very well.
So it doesn't work out very well. And thank you for saying that. Even someone like you with the alphabet soup that you have attached to your name can sometimes let it loose a little.
That all of those alphabet soup things don't change the fact that I am a human being with the same feelings and vulnerabilities that most everybody else has, which is one of the things that I appreciate because I really get how a lot of my clients feel.
Well, there's nothing like understanding someone's feelings when you felt those same feelings.
Yes. I don't want to stay there.
No, you don't want to stay there.
Because
it's an unhealthy space.
It's very unhealthy. And besides that, how can I help someone if I don't know how to get out of it?
Yes.
So that's been my quest ever since I began this adventure in, I think it was 2000. And I have loved every minute of it and am still loving it.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So you found your calling.
Found my calling. I sure did.
How many people have you counseled? If you were to guess a number.
Oh, my goodness. I can't even guess. It would be hundreds.
Hundreds.
Well, since 2000. So, I don't know. People
Maybe
say, do the math. I can't do the math.
You don't have to do the math. You don't have
Thank
to.
you. No, but it's I've been very fortunate to have worked with many, many people of all different kinds and circumstances, and I have learned so much, probably more than they have. So I'm grateful for that.
It's nice to always be a student.
Oh, my goodness. That's probably one of my most often suggestions when people say, I'm kind of stuck. I don't know what to do. Well, one of my very first responses is, well, go back to school. Go learn something.
Go learn something, yes.
Learn something, and it will benefit you no matter what.
So one of this podcast really is to help people out there that are silent. Some may be, silently overwhelmed by sadness or anxiety or anger. So what's happening in the brain and body when they're overwhelmed by that, where they can't get, when they can't get out of bed. So I most recently lost my father about a couple months ago, and I took my mother to grief share meeting, and there was a young lady in there, and everybody was in there. All the people that were in there, it was spouses, and it was us, daughters or sons of, and their parent had passed. And so and then there was this one girl that was younger, and she looked like she literally had rolled out of bed. And it's like 6 o'clock, and she had lost a child in a miscarriage.
Very, very.
And I honestly have not experienced that sadness. But I thought, and so when she started, I figured by looking at her that it had been recent. Because she looked, I hate to say that someone looked depressed, but they just looked like they barely got out of bed.
It's hard to disguise that, really.
Yes. And so it made me very sad when she said it had been like a year and a half. And so I could tell that she was overwhelmed by sadness.
Yes.
So what is happening to her or anybody in that state where they feel like they just can't? What inside them internally is going on?
Very good question, and challenging. We do have to go back to the way the mind works. And the interesting thing is that sympathetic nervous system is what is triggered. And honestly, what it's trying to do is reconnect with the person that they've lost, who really isn't lost, but it's difficult for the mind to accept the change in the physical status of the person. Also, I think a lot depends on your belief system, but it is just simply that sense of loss in the fact that my whole world has just changed. That's a threat.
My whole world has changed. In their mind, this incident, their whole world has changed, and then you perceive it as a threat, which creates the fear.
Absolutely. And I can say this from personal experience, is that everything that you were used to happening, it stops. And so you find yourself needing to learn and do things that you had always depended on someone else for. It's quite challenging. But going back to that sense of what's going on with the brain, it's that it keeps trying to get back to that person. It's just like
before the incident, before the loss.
Yes, I didn't want you to die, so I just keep trying to make you not die.
Oh.
And that's the pain. That's the greatest pain of it. When two things can be of help. Certainly, I think the most beneficial is that if you have a belief in the God of the Bible and what Jesus told us, that we don't die, that
our life's eternal.
Our life is eternal, and that the part of our body, there's a part of our body that doesn't die. And I think that is what we call that mind or that spirit. The soul is more personality, but that's even intangible. So that is the part that lives forever. I think if you really accept that and believe it, then you know this person is not gone forever. When that is a more difficult belief, the one thing is that that relationships, I mean, you can't touch or hold a relationship. It's intangible.
It's intangible.
So the relationship that you establish will never go away, because as long as you have the memory of that person, and I always encourage people, I want you to think about the thing that you absolutely love the most about them, But I also want you to think about things that drove you up the wall, and that constantly was, something you were nagging about or complaining about, and look at it more from, try to see it more from that this person will be with me in my mind as long as I have a mind.
Oh, that's such a great advice.
There's some things that I can do to try to help people if they don't have a religious perspective, to realize that person's body is gone, but the effect of their experience, because you can't take that away.
No.
Ever again. But that stuff can get stuck.
Okay.
And
how can you help it not get stuck?
We have to change the meaning. Okay. Some of this I called this paralysis of emotion. And it's interesting that when I get stuck in a hard place, that my mind is saying, that's not right, that's not fair, it shouldn't have happened, and that needs to stop. That's where that primitive brain gets in a cycle, running over and over and over again. If we stay in that cycle, then we probably are going to have a very, very dismal experience in life. But I read a story one time that I thought illustrated this, and it was sort of humorous. But it's a story in a novel by Stella Gibbons, and it's about Aunt Ada Doom, who, as a young girl, experienced a very, very unsettling sight. And so the experience controlled her life for 69 years.
Whoa.
So when everybody asked, what's wrong with you, Ada? She said, I saw something nasty in the woodshed. But she couldn't say what it was. So
she couldn't unsee it.
She couldn't unsee it.
She couldn't unsee it.
But she couldn't tell it. So what happened was that she closed herself up in her room because it was so horrible, terrible. She couldn't stand. Her life was ruined. Her land was cursed. Her house was cursed as well, and it was just a doom and gloom. So the remarkable thing is the family accommodated this belief by allowing her to stay shut up in her room, and they would bring her meals, and they accommodated Aunt Ada for 69 years. However, one day, her niece, who was a young child, just burst in her room. She broke all the rules. And she said, why won't you come out of the room? And so Aunt Ada said, I saw something nasty in the woodshed. And the niece said, well, what was it? And Ada said, it was something bad. And the niece says, are you sure? So at that moment in time, it prompted Aunt Ada to go, well, was it the woodshed, or was it the potting shed, or was it the bicycle shed, or was it the barn? And in that moment, she began to realize that her narrative was just based on a belief that she had conjured up in her head and had spent her whole life acting as if it was reality. This is what happens to a lot of us when we experience something terrifying or what she called unsettling.
Unsettling.
And if we get stuck, in the fact that that has affected my life and I'll never recover from it, then it becomes self-fulfilling. Does that make sense?
It does. So much stuff is self-fulfilling, isn't it?
It truly is, which is why it's so important to guard our minds and make sure that we are trying to make sure that we're seeing things as accurately as we can. But I thought this, I think, was a really interesting story about...
That's a great parable to... because it is obviously an exaggeration, 69 years. But even if you get to that place it could be traumatic to your life and affect not only you, but there will be collateral damage. My husband always says it's not just there's always collateral damage. Like, even though this person is and what's happening to them, and and then her whole family has to accommodate her.
Well, that was it.
And then she doesn't get to live the life that was probably intended for her.
But I think one of the interesting things is that the family enabled it. Nobody except the little niece challenged her. Like, why don't you come out of the room? Apparently nobody else had done that, or they didn't press on her hard enough to get her to challenge.
It's so important to have friends that speak truth to you.
That's excellent. Yes, absolutely. Whether you want to hear it or not.
I feel like I'm a really honest friend, but I feel like sometimes, they may not want to hear what I have to say, but the only thing I know to do is to be honest because I love them.
Well, indeed, and of course, that's the truth, is that a lying tongue is not a true friend. Mm-mm. So, and flattery, I think that this flattery is basically just doesn't help you at all. It causes you to believe things that aren't true.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good place to take a pause for just a moment. For all that are watching and listening, thank you for spending this time. If you would please leave me a review if you're enjoying the show, and also go back to any other episodes that are available on Apple, Spotify, as well as YouTube.
Hey guys, I'm Stephanie from Healthy, Well, and Good. I'm so glad Cindy introduced me to Make Wellness. My favorite collection is their Muscle and Metabolic collection, Fit, Lean, and Hydrated. I take it every day. Take it for 2 weeks, see if you like it. I love it. I'm hooked. I think you guys will love it too.
Now back to the show. So we're going to get into, you're so well versed in the mind. How does the mind create stories or perceptions that either heal or hurt us during difficult emotional experiences?
Excellent question. And
thank you.
Issue that so many people deal with. And Aunt Ada, again, is a good metaphor on this, is that her mind got stuck in a belief that what she saw and experienced was so terrible that she couldn't move forward. Her life was ruined. And I think the interesting thing is that was a belief. Mm-hmm. There was no reality to it at all. This usually shows up when people have, in fact, experienced something pretty terrifying. And
like a trauma.
Yes.
But there are different degrees of trauma.
There are different degrees of trauma.
Trauma's not just, somebody trying to, attack you or rape you. Like, trauma can be different levels and different things. So many things could be traumatic.
That's right.
Could you kind of speak to that? Because I feel like people think like, well, I've not experienced trauma trauma is, there's different degrees.
Well, clinically, trauma is identified as any experience that would cause you to feel like you were going to die.
Okay.
So,
or your mind perceives it.
Well,
like not even just a physical death, an emotional death, A spiritual death?
No, this would be something I feel like I am not going to make it.
I'm not going to make it.
Now, here's the thing. That's a perception. Whether it's a reality is another story, which is why when we talked about this a minute ago, I said one of the questions is ask yourself, am I getting ready to die?
Am I getting ready to die?
But this is a powerful thing because trauma lives in our body as a feeling.
Oh.
And that is what...
Say that, please repeat that.
Trauma resides in the body as a feeling. One of the most beneficial things, for folks who are interested, is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, who is a psychiatrist and a very much of a pioneer in trauma treatment. He wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score, and it's extremely insightful as to what happens physiologically in your body and how trauma actually affects the mechanism that activates the system. What most people want to avoid is ever feeling the way they felt.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
getting back to that feeling.
Anything to never feel that feeling again. And that's really the mission that so many people are on, is to I need to and try to do everything I can think of to keep from feeling that way again. That's why people can engage in activities and behaviors that are not necessarily in their best interest. It's a distraction, and trying to, again, distract the mind from going back to focus on the terror of it. And so that's, again, it's the way that the mind interprets that experience.
The way the mind interprets that experience.
If it's life-threatening, and in some cases, it certainly could be. Interesting note on that. I had worked with several special forces military, and I was interested to see that
they say if you've ever killed somebody that you're never the same, even though it's a duty and a calling and something of nobility to protect us.
Yes.
Before we had children, I'll never forget this. I thought we were having boys. So many people told me I was having boys. I had my mentor told me that's what I deserved. I was going to have boys, and I didn't. I didn't have
surprise.
Surprise! I did not. But I remember us talking. He's like, well, they might want to. You know how you talk about what your kids are going to be
going into the military,
and I was like, absolutely not. I told him, absolutely not. And he goes, that's the most noble thing a man can do is fight for his country.
Very brave. Yes.
So it's a duty, a responsibility, and a calling, and then something like that they have to do, and then they hold that trauma.
Many do. Yes. Some of them, especially these highly trained forces, have what I've noticed is they develop such a fine-tuned plan or way of escape.
Oh, okay, a way of escape, the feeling.
It's actually the way of escape, the danger.
The danger, okay. Thank you.
And so the trauma is I'm in something and I can't get out of it. It's an entrapment.
It's an entrapment, okay.
When there is a highly skilled and developed plan of action to get out of it, it reduces the impact.
Okay.
Of the terrifying scene. But you're right. Taking another human life for most people really is it's something you don't forget. And
so how could someone heal from that?
Well, basically, it's there are lots of the most effective therapies, I believe, are those non-traditional therapies. that involve clinical hypnosis, which is very, very helpful. Play therapies, drama therapies, things like that. That, again, remember, these therapies go beyond the thinking mind. Mm-hmm. And if you realize the trauma is in that primitive feeling part of your brain, when you can work with it in a way, in language it can understand, which is more sensory.
Okay, all right, isn't that interesting? That's so interesting.
It's It's the most fabulous, amazing thing, and I just can't get enough of it. It's really remarkable what the difference can make when the mind, when you can help. Here's the way we say it, or at least I say it. You'll never forget the experience, ever.
You'll never forget it. Okay.
However, when the mind can reassess and reinterpret, when they have this,
they can acknowledge it like a memory.
Mm-hmm. It happened, but remember that the brain's going to trigger when it thinks it's in danger. Mm-hmm. But if you read history of World War II, you can read it as events that took place, but you are not threatened because you don't feel that it's actually going on around you. And when we can shift that experience of that person, that yes, it happened, but it's not occurring now, so I don't have to run away or fight it.
Or fight it. And so you're saying that the sensory, here locally we have a local symphony, and they do music therapy and art therapy, and it's so amazing. That's why art is so important. That we know somebody who's in the development of a like a therapy that's music therapy for people with dementia.
Yes.
And how, what it does for them, what it does for their brains it's miraculous.
Amazing. It's amazing. And yes, this is what they're finding out, because the cognitive part of the brain is what's so impaired, but this more sensory, emotional part of the brain, the feeling part of the brain, it's very responsive to music, to images of beauty and light. It's also very responsive to olfactory stimulation, such as lovely, pleasant fragrances, or even like this baking bread or chocolate chip cookies. It's a soothing, communicating non-verbally. It's okay. We're all fine.
Well, if I did not know this, but sometimes if I feel really stressed out, I will put on a song that takes me back to somewhere that was very fun, or like a song that I just love, that Jeff and I both love together. I will put it on, and I will physically feel better after the song.
Yes, you will.
I will physically feel better. So it's amazing that some of the therapies are not medications, and they're sensory.
Yes.
They're art. They're natural. That's really that is so cool, and it makes sense because it's made by nature and humans, and yes, I think it's amazing.
Well, think about this: when your children were little and they would fall down or skin their knee or hurt themselves, they would begin to cry, probably. Well, you didn't go and explain to them why it wasn't that big of a deal. No, you went and hugged them. And that's the whole sense, is that sensory experience of comfort, which is what you try to create. And the situation is that it communicates in a nonverbal sensory way. You're fine. You're okay.
You're okay.
It's going to be all right. And that is so much more effective than trying to give someone 25 reasons why they really don't need to be upset. I mean, they're not going to listen. They'll probably punch you in the face or something like that. But no, it's that whole, and that's the system we're talking about. It's the system that causes your feelings.
Oh. This is such a great place we're going to take a quick break. I'm so excited that you guys were able to tune in and learn more about why we feel the way we feel, how to heal, what are positive responses and things, and just basic life skills. And you don't have to have this traumatic experience to learn from this, but it may help you learn more about how to interact with other people. And I'm grateful for your time with us. This is our first 2-part podcast, so please tune in next week as well. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Please like, subscribe, and follow. Soul Hype Cindy.